did Misery. That movie was so well done. What a talent. What a talent going back to All in the Family, one of my favorites growing up. Reports just how horrifying the stabbing wounds were, according to the throat of Reiner and his wife. And apparently, a family member is being questioned in this murder. J Dog, I'll be honest. Good morning. Let's start with the basics. Good morning on this Monday, chilly, frigid Monday. You just heard Mike Pomp talking about the wind today. But don't worry, by Friday, believe it or not, it's going to feel like you are in Fort Lauderdale. 50-50 for a high on Friday with some rain. But today, after some little more than a dusting or an inch yesterday, a lot of people slipping and sliding all day long. More snow on the coast, more snow in the interior sections, lakes region, right up into Ossipee yesterday. But this morning, cold temperatures, and we're going to keep our poll question. We're going to sound like the Farmer's Almanac this morning, J Dog. Our poll question this morning, we're not even, by the way, winter doesn't even start until next Sunday, I believe. So we're not even in winter yet, but you won't know that today. Do you think this cold weather earlier, a poll question up on X at the Pulse of an H this morning, at the Pulse of an H, do you think this early snow and cold weather, ski areas are loving it for Christmas, New Year's vacation week, but do you think it's a sign of a cold, long winter? Yes or no? We're asking the question. Do you think it is? That's our poll question. Reminder, you can also watch us. We have our own YouTube channel streaming live in the 9 to 10 hour at the Pulse of an H. Everything with us is the Pulse of an H. And by the way, let's start with additional signal strength right up into Maine. 98.1 FM, 98.7 FM HD2, if you like that digital clarity stuff, 1490 AM. In the Lakes region, 107.3 FM, and also 1270 AM in the seacoast of New Hampshire and Maine, right up Portsmouth, Rochester, Dover. 107.7 FM, but everywhere else in New England and worldwide, and we are worldwide now. Our streaming numbers are really taking off. Monday through Friday, 9 to noon. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, worldwide, play the Pulse of an H. J-Dog, I have to, we talked before the show this morning, as we always do. This morning when I got up early, a little bit earlier to clean off the vehicles, as they say, I saw this Rob Reiner and his wife's story killed in their L.A. home. And I thought it was really from last night. I thought it was one of those fake stories that I was afraid to click like famous Hollywood director and his wife murdered in their Los Angeles mansion. Click here. I'm like, no, this, and then sad to say it's true. Really just a really sad story. In so many movies in the 80s and 90s after he starred in All in the Family in the 70s. Details are coming out. I always say in stories like this, like Brown University in Rhode Island, go to the Providence, Rhode Island media to get the latest in Los Angeles for the Reiner double murder story. The Los Angeles Fire Department was called to the couple's home 3:30 yesterday afternoon, J-Dog, to find a man 78 and a woman 68 dead, murdered. Sources have confirmed it was the couple. They were found dead with their J-Dog. This is really just pathetic. It's just sad being reported in LA. Their throats were literally slit. They had an argument of some kind inside the home, and a family member is being questioned. Detectives are treating the incident as a double homicide, and the unnamed family member. There are some local reports that the daughter, Romy, lived across the street, but they also had a son in the area who had a history of issues, let's just say on the mental health side, and I'll leave it at that. Their son, they do have a son, Nick, 32. He had also been a screenwriter, and I guess it's out in LA, so I guess I'll share this with you. Nick is the son's name. Sources say he may be the one being questioned. He's been known to struggle with drug addiction and bouts of homelessness in the area. Sad story. Brown University, J-Dog, you heard in our national news out of the gate, that story hitting over the weekend. 2 dead and I guess what was it, 9 wounded, J-Dog, I think 2. Yeah. They had, looks like they had that suspect. They even identified him as an Army veteran that had driven, according to reports, from Wisconsin, and now they've released him. And this does remind me a little bit in a weird way of what happened in Utah when they had an early suspect on campus, that older guy, and then they detained him and released him, and of course then they caught the guy that did it. But Brown University in Rhode Island, apparently they've sort of ended school for the semester, which would have ended anyway between now and next Wednesday for the Christmas, New Year's break. So they've told basically students, you can head out and head home. They don't feel that the area is, in that much of a threat to the public, but we'll keep an eye on both. It's hard to get beyond those two big stories this morning coming out of the weekend, and hope you had a good weekend, whatever you were doing. J Dog, some very bizarre developments in the National Football League over the weekend. And I know you'll get into this week, but the Kansas City Chiefs kind of they lost twice yesterday, not just out of the playoffs, but Patrick Mahomes a torn ACL, and that is that surgery. That's forget this season because it's already over for the Chiefs, but that might be in the next year. Broncos um, held on to beat your Packers in Denver. Patriots, J Dog. I never got my hopes up. I know. Did you see that one? He's running one way, he stops and he turns, you can see his knee bend. So that changes the Packers because he's one of the best defensive players in the game, right? Yeah, that's a bruiser. Oh, this Saturday night? Wow, why sad? Just a special. Wow. J-Dog, I just have to say though, obviously glued like so many people to the Patriots Bills game, and it was one for the ages in terms of the score, but just a bizarre game. As Vrabel said at half, he knew, everyone knew. I guess we really know now that the Bills are a second half football team, right, J Dog? I mean, coaches, Mike Vrabel said going into the tunnel, he said, look, they're a second half team. And Josh Allen, they're a second half team. And you're not kidding. Would they get five scores in a row? And it's like the Patriots just collapsed except for that one return, the running play there in the second half. And that was it. Now, help me out, J Dog. 3 games left, right? So the Patriots and the Bills, Patriots beat them in Buffalo. Patriots do have a better division record, isn't that correct, than the Bills? Yeah. So if they both, let me just ask you a hypothetical. If they both win 2 out of their last 3, both the Bills and the Patriots, what happens to the division title? Do we know? More wins in the division? Yeah. Okay. All right. So the Patriots, is it Ravens, Jets, Dolphins? And that's not going to be a breeze. Now, conversely, if the Patriots can win there, I think they can defeat the Jets. The Dolphins can give them a hard time because the Dolphins, for some reason, have rebounded a little bit. All right, J Dog. When we come back, I am going to talk about, and the impetus really are these two big stories: Brown University and the Reiner double murder in Hollywood. We talk about something I've talked a lot on the show about, and we have a public service announcement. You hear me on my our network, the Pulse of an H, talk about, and in my own circles of life, and I'm sure you, and as we go into the Christmas holidays, these stories that come out of the weekend are bummers. These are depressing. They're negative stories. Rob Reiner. You may not have dug his politics, you may have loved his politics, but that has nothing to do with the fact that he was one of the more talented directors. I mean, what is it, J Dog? When Harry Met Sally, Misery. I mean, he's almost like Ron Howard as a director. And Ron Howard was such a great, famous childhood actor, right? But as a director, Reiner very formidable in Hollywood, but also as an actor, he won Emmys, he won awards, I believe, in All in the Family. I watched that growing up as Meathead. He played with Archie and Edith and Gloria. Amazing talent, and just a sad story. Unbelievable. I thought it was fake, I thought it was false news this morning when I woke up. I'm like, this is one of these things where they just want me to click the link and get scammed here. No, family member being questioned, Brown University suspect at large. These stories are very negative, very sad as we go into the Christmas holiday season, New Year's. But there's a message here that I that we as a society, for whatever reason, and I know the reasons, don't want to touch or get near, and it's mental health. And people that are clinicians and technical people in mental health will not agree with me always, but I believe anyone who kills someone else, unless it's a self-defense protection thing where someone hurts a loved one and right in front of you and you protect your loved one. Well, when someone in a premeditated or disturbed way goes and hurts a bunch of people or someone they know, and mental health is so prevalent, and oftentimes addiction is not wrapped around it, but too many times it is. And many people know people in our own lives where they might have a kid that's like the Reiners, who's battling addiction and homelessness and mental health. And sometimes there's a spiral there, and parents don't even know where, or loved ones don't even know what to do with that loved one who's struggling because these places are so expensive. Like, the Reiners, they had money for their son, but he was homeless and battling drug addiction. It's almost impossible to keep someone safe. And there are more families right at home. I mean, John Broderick, retired Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court, has written and talked and lectured about his son who battled the same thing as the Reiner's son and other families, and nearly killed his father sleeping one night when he came home in a rage, angry at his parents, and was in a psychotic state of mental illness. And John Broderick has bravely gone out and lectured and talked to young people in schools and parents all the time. He's made it his life mission surviving that attack. And I remember visiting John in the hospital. I think it was Elliott Hospital in Manchester when he was barely survived, going over to hold his hand because I had met him when I was at WMUR TV, and I knew his family, and he's such a wonderful man. And today it's an amazing story, but we don't really do anything to make the crisis better. We'll come back with some commentary on that. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, by the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment. All right, J Dog, we are back. I didn't even ask, but the frenetic pace of the Open with all the news going on. Do you have a good weekend? I know it was a little messy out there. Did you get your snowshoeing in? I feel badly. I didn't even ask you. I didn't even ask you how that went. 19 years, right? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, J Dog, and thank you for doing that. Couple of things. When the Brown University story broke over the weekend and they were looking for a suspect, and we all say, and heaven forbid the students too often have grown up in this, here we go again, another nut job out there. And I'm watching some of the Rhode Island political officials and the federal delegation and other interviews, just, it's always about the gun. In this case, I guess the suspect had two handguns in Brown. And that doesn't make the murder and the horror any easier or worse. It just is the reality of the weapon. And it's terrible in the hands of the wrong person, a killer, murderer, someone who's decided for whatever reason they're going to go hurt and kill. And then, of course, you saw what happened in Australia, father and son. And there's evil among us. There is evil among us, whether we want to admit it or not, or someone snapped. But then you look at the Reiner story, Rob Reiner, the actor director, and his wife in LA, and it's a different example of, it looks like, although they haven't made an arrest, they're interviewing a family member, presumably the son, who's had issues with addiction and homelessness and mental health, which is not too uncommon, including right here in New Hampshire and Maine and New England. We just don't talk about it enough. So when these stories happen, Lewiston, Maine, who can forget that? Um, I always, how do I say this? I'm always, and that was an acute case of mental health. I'm always amazed at how we, as a society, and this is a tough subject, but it needs to be talked about. We always dodge the dodgeball. No one wants to talk about the big story in the room, and that is mental health. And that was the case in Lewiston, Maine, with that the veteran, and his family knew it. They wanted the police were aware of him. The army apparently knew more than they said, and he had a real bad. There's no good case of PTSD, but he was a ticking time bomb, and the bomb went off. Now we can say these are all isolated incidents, but there's just too many of them, and we know that. We don't have to be told that. You don't have to be told that. I don't have to be told that. J Dog doesn't have to be told that. And they're terrible stories, one by one. They really are. And I don't pretend um, to hold all the answers or any of the answers. I've often said with people I love and respect in discussions about this, um, and Australia, you can talk about that one with the father and son, and you could just see the video until that incredible Good Samaritan tackled I guess the father or one of the guys with the guns who was killing, but 11 people, 11 lives were taken. Um, I say this very, very respectfully and with all the sensitivity I can muster on a Monday morning. I'm willing to have any discussion with anyone if it will save a life or lives, especially children and kids. I mean that. But in Australia, they have very, very, very tough laws on gun ownership and gun use. I don't know if you knew that in Australia. And in Chicago, Illinois, Chicago has some of the toughest gun ownership, use guns, gun laws of any major city. And every weekend, I haven't looked this morning, they have about 12 to 15 incidents of violence with guns in Chicago because they have a law and order problem in Chicago. That's just a fact. But when you go to the broader society, because all these stories can have different stories, there's two things that it doesn't amaze me anymore. It just disappoints me. The two come aways from these stories, whether it's Australia, Brown University, or the Reiners in LA, are what's the motive? What was the motive? Authorities are looking for a motive. And what was the weapon? In the Reiner murders in LA, there were two murders. There were two murders in Brown University. Two people are dead in each case, Brown and the Reiners, in their home in LA. The Reiners case, according to reports locally, their throats were slit by a knife and the murderer. Even if it was someone in their family, it was murder with a knife. In Brown, it was a handgun. But the result is two people are dead. And people always want to know what's the motive? And I always say, does it matter? When you really think about it, does it matter? What is the motive and what is the weapon? And we need to do all we can to make sure young people and innocent people aren't hurt and killed in churches or synagogues or universities or public places. That's not my point here. But across the board, and even if it is Lewiston, Maine, the worst case of domestic violence in Maine's history, um, we don't want to in this country, for whatever reason, talk about mental health. And so many families are caught in this incredible spiral where they don't know where to put a kid who's battling mental health and addiction or homelessness because the system, if you try to take them to the state hospital in Concord, there may not be enough appropriate beds. Our local hospitals have become drop off points in a medical or mental health emergency. Someone calls 911, you take them to the local hospital, and there's no one on duty to treat the mental health or mental illness because the emergency room people are PAs and doctors to treat a stab wound or the flu or a cardiac situation or someone fell off a stepladder. There's no one there on the mental health side. And there are places, but they're very expensive. If you don't qualify, it's like college for financial aid. If you're above that poorer line of income, you're paying $15,000 or $17,000 a month for a secure private facility for someone who's battling mental health. And then the person, if they're an adult, can refuse treatment. And the police officers, when they're called, doing their job, by the way, unless they are attacked or if they witness a crime, they can't just put the person in jail. So mental health is a problem that we don't talk enough. Anxiety, depression, suicide. We don't talk enough about it. And how's that working for us? 603-228-2080. We come back. John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Kevin Landigan making a cameo. Doug Tengden on the economic front. Hey, Google. Hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of Nature. Back in a moment. All right, we are back. A pretty chilly Monday with that wind and clear skies out there. We had supposed to be just like an inch of snow yesterday. I don't know about you. That seemed like a little more than an inch. Roadways were pretty slippery out there, but good day for football if you weren't on the roadways. But today we got some chilly temps. But I don't know if you saw by Friday, it's going to be a virtual meltdown in the 50s. Believe it or not. And by the way, we're not even into the winter months yet. That's Sunday. Our poll question up on X, though. The early cold and winter weather. Do you think it's going to be a long, cold winter? We're not even the Farmer's Almanac, and that's at the Pulse of an H. Brought to you by Alpine Gold, alpinegold.com. All right, J Dog, John Decker. Do we have John? Okay, Kevin Landrigan making a cameo because Friday we were so packed. I always love to talk with Kevin, so I said, join us Monday. Senior political reporter, New Hampshire Union leader. Good morning, Kevin. Good. Well, Friday started with a local buzz with New Hampshire's so-called, the inventor Dean Kamen and some pictures on an island somewhere with Jeffrey Epstein and Sir Branson, and I guess he even responded. Those rumor mill stuff haven't really been new. I often wondered why Ghislaine Maxwell chose to buy and own a home in New Hampshire. I think it's still for sale on Zillow or Realtor up in Bradford for, I think it's dropped 130 grand, ironically called tucked away when she was picked up there by federal marshals. But that started a story of buzz. Friday, you can comment on that one or anything else because we have a few weeks to go before the end of the year and financial filings. So I didn't want to cut you short on Friday. Good morning, Kevin. Yeah. Mhm. No, just look at Congress, in Washington. Everything's about get the other side. Everything's political down. Everything now. Everything. Hmm. Yeah. What? Yeah. 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 What? Right. Kevin, why aren't they spending some money and trying to flip the governor's seat here? Mhm. Mhm. By the way in a governor's race, it was supposed to be in that 2 to 3 point margin of error. Yeah. Yep. 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 Yeah. Interesting. What else is, catching your eye? Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, because the distance is it's more than a half mile, right? Oh, wow. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Interesting. Yep. All right, Kevin, good stuff. I'm glad we got to you on today because there's more there and good stuff to look ahead here in the next week or so with Kevin Landigan, senior political reporter, New Hampshire Union Leader. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Kevin, just referenced in the end there about the technology from all the COVID stuff. I haven't really dove into because it's a Minnesota type story, but the uh, the 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 incredible fraud on the food stuff that goes so deep. I mean, the one restaurant owner in Minneapolis or wherever it was, Minnesota, that was claiming he was feeding 5,000. Just a restaurant owner, business owner, claiming he was feeding 5,000 young people meals a day, and then taking the money from that fund. Unbelievable fraud. But during the COVID crap, because that's what it was. 98% of it was complete crap. During all that, when they were just pouring federal money out there through what they call it, the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, through the SBA. I remember local bankers were shopping to business owners. Hey, come on in. We got a great deal for you. You can borrow as much money as you think you're going to lose and not worry about paying it back. And I remember doing my radio show, hearing from certain business owners saying, hey, what's your take on that? I go, I think it's set up for the businesses that are being so stupidly shut down, like a restaurant or a small business. I mean, if it is literally being shut down by state officials and you're not allowed to be open for business, that's what it's designed for. But I think there's going to be a ton of fraud and abuse because when you throw free money out there, of course, people are going to take advantage of it. And no one's ever been able to add up how many people ripped off taxpayers by taking money they didn't really need. I had a friend I went to college with went to University of Vermont. Good family, lives in Vermont, in the hotel real estate business. And I remember he called me during the height of this and he said, hey, buddy, I just got a question because I listened to your show streaming and you got all these interviews about this payroll protection program. So our hotels are being shut down by the state of Vermont. So our employees, have rightly, they're collecting local unemployment because we have to shut down because we're not allowed to open. But we as a family, as the owners, we don't really need this money. So I feel funny taking it. He goes, I'm old school, so we're not going to take it. What do you think? I said, well, it's up to you. It's a decision you got to make. I mean, your business is being shut down. He goes, we're just going to use the time and paint the inside. And we don't need the money to buy groceries. We feel other people need it. And I think that's a higher ground to take. So, but a lot of people, a lot of law firms that got more business during COVID from litigation than less took the money. Colleges, universities that were getting paid anyway by students took the money. So I don't know why everyone's surprised that people ripped off all the free COVID money, but that's just some commentary. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of Age. Come back. Doug Tengden on the economic side of things next. Well, a lot's happened last week that we didn't really get time to dive into. Doug Tengden, our economic thinker, worldmarketadvisors.com, worldmarketadvisors.com, joining us. Federal Reserve did what everyone expected, lowered the bank to bank, the main interest rate 0.25%. What that means for us, well, you're going to tell us and everything else. And Doug, I still, you know me, every week I still am trying to figure out this economy of ours. And I know tomorrow we have the one of the main economists nationally for Bank of America, Stephen Junot, to kind of talk about how we're ending the year. And what he's saying so far is, in the past, have been things are slowing, but the upper income folks are out spending, and we don't expect a big slowdown, and things might pick up at the beginning of next year. But I have no idea beyond that. Take it away. Can you tell at this point? Um, can you tell at this point that uh, that what the employment picture is doing? Are we going to see more displacement? Are people who are getting let go easily finding other work? Can you elaborate on that or not? All right. Well, we're in that period. We'll catch you one more time before the Christmas break. Doug Tangden, World Market Advisors. I have a funny theory. I think people, and again, we come out of the news this weekend where it's just so depressing. Brown University, Rob Reiner and his wife in LA. Some of these stories are just they're a downer. They're depressing. They're sad. I think people just look forward to that break in the action between Christmas and the New Year's just to assess, get through one year and start another. But what do I know? I guess the question a lot of people was our poll question the other morning up on X at the Pulse of an H is for people who are right now listening, Doug, working, been a pretty busy year. Things are expensive out there. Affordability seems to be the new buzzword going to the midterms. But for folks out there who are kind of didn't see a tremendous amount of change in their life this year, maybe they weren't trying to buy or sell a home, they were just plugging away. 2026, more of the same, big changes coming. What any areas that might be different to that category? Interesting. Good stuff, Doug. We'll catch you Monday. Enjoy the chilly temps this morning. Doug Tengman, World Market Advisors. So I noticed in the state of Maine, And I noticed in Massachusetts, they have this in Maine. I can't think of the name, but the 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 uh, the Republicans in the minority in Augusta, they have this like Maine fiscal conservatives, and they have a pretty active social media following. And in Massachusetts, they have Massachusetts conservatives. Same kind of thing. You're not in the mainstream if you're in Mass and Maine and you're trying to point out big spending from Democrats. But do you know in Massachusetts, there some of the Republican lawmakers now are claiming that Massachusetts spent more than $3 billion than budgeted this past year to house, transport, care for, provide things, services for illegal aliens. So the estimate was going to be a billion. They now think it's 3.2 billion, and they're trying to see if an audit can be done. That's just interesting. Did you see and I don't have it in front of me, I apologize. The New Hampshire Republicans, I think they were state lawmakers, and if they weren't, I apologize, but Republicans from New Hampshire did a press conference, and it caught some traction on social media, endorsing Governor Healy in Massachusetts for reelection because she's doing so much good for New Hampshire by the crazy fiscal policies of people that can't afford to live in Mass anymore. So the businesses may come over to New Hampshire. So thank you. They want Governor Healy to stay in the governor's role in Mass because she's so good for New Hampshire. Pretty clever. Yeah. And I don't know that Boston Globe, Suffolk University poll a month ago, more than a third of Massachusetts people are now considering moving from Massachusetts because of taxes, and it's too expensive. The taxes are too much in Mass now. So they're, and it might be New Hampshire's gain. I just hope they remember if they move here why they left there and don't want all that here. Remember why you left there if you move here. Just please remember why you left there when you move here. The scary thing about that poll is it made big news in Boston, and the TV outlets, CBS, the channel, the whatever the TV news are in Boston, that more than a third of Massachusetts people with property taxes being announced higher in Boston by Mayor Wu, 13%. People are moving they're going to move from Massachusetts, or they're thinking about it. They're considering because it's too many taxes, too expensive. The scary thing is that means 2/3 of the people living in Mass are okay with it. There's only a third are thinking of moving because they're taxed too much. That means 2/3 like it. 2/3 like all those taxes. They must like it. Coming up, Neil Levesque and a whole lot more. Hey, Google, Alexa, by the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment.